Whatever faith you do have, place that all in the Lord. If you have faith the size of a mustard seed, place your faith in the Lord. If you have faith the size of a peanut, the size of a watermelon, the size of $1 million home, whatever it is that you have, place your faith in the Lord. And don't let that wording trick you to believe like you have to be fully faithful and fully committed to God. There are going to be times where you're nervous. There's going to be times where you're doubtful. There's going to be times where you're afraid, and that's normal. But what you do with that will lead you to the experience that you. What's up, y'all? Welcome to the Hood Soft Life Podcast. I'm your host, Sabrina, and in this podcast, we talk about navigating the challenges that come with growing up in the hood and leaving those challenges behind for a soft life. Growing up in the hood comes with its own set of challenges, but what people don't tend to tell you is not only do those challenges follow you once you've made it out physically, but they tend to intensify. So, I'm bringing you along on my journey. I'm going to be honest with you about the struggles and the lessons that I'm learning to achieve a soft life, but we're doing something a little bit different this season. I know that I can't achieve a soft life without my relationship with God. So this season, I'm bringing you some Bible, and I'm actually really excited to talk about this. As people continue to grow in their faith, whether you're from the hood or from somewhere else, it changes so much about you, your environment, and just how you operate in this life. And I want to be able to share what I'm learning with you. So with that being said, let's go ahead and jump right in. Welcome back and happy new year, everybody. I hope you guys had a safe holiday season. I hope that you had a safe new year season as well. And I'm just grateful to be back. I'm also a little nervous, and I would be lying to you if I said that I wasn't. I took some time off from the podcast to really just focus on myself, focus on my mental health, and honestly to build my relationship with God during that time as well. But I'm really excited to be back with you, and I'm really excited about this new season and just sharing everything that I've been learning and everything that I'm going to continue to learn as I walk on this journey with God and as I continue to leave behind some of the things from my past and grow into a new person. And so with that being said, our topic for today's episode is going to be stepping out on faith. As we're getting ready for a new year or stepping into a new year, a lot of people talk about, I want to change my life and I'm going to manifest this and I'm going to do this and new year, new me, rebrand 2026 and blah, 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 blah. And all of that is cool, in all honesty. But if you really want to be able to change your life, you're going to need two main things, and that's going to be your faith and your obedience to God. So let's get started. A couple of weeks ago, I had just gotten off a therapy session with my therapist, and I was just being honest with her about how I have so many goals, I have so many plans and dreams, and I want to be able to really start making a shift towards them in the new year, but I'm nervous, I'm afraid, and I'm scared, and I don't want to do something that contradicts the plan that God has for me. And so we were just talking about that, and I ended up texting my friends and just saying, like, can we please do a Bible study? Like, I really want to just unpack what I'm going through. Maybe it'll be something in a word that we read or whatever, but can we just study the Bible for like an hour or whatever? And they were like, yeah, we're actually going to be reading Luke chapter 5. We've already been doing Bible study together, but you're welcome to come and join us. And we get into our Bible study and we start reading it, and I'm just overcome with so many emotions because it really spoke out to me in terms of like just really wanting to step out and doing the thing that God has called me to do, stepping out and doing the thing that I am supposed to be doing, and just being so afraid and how to navigate that. And so I really want to just share that with you today. I'm going to be reading the passage for you. I just want to go ahead and preface the fact that English is not my first language, so sometimes I'll be stumbling when I read. Just bear with me. But I'm going to be reading Luke chapter 5, verses 1 through 10, and I read from the NLT version. If you want to read a different version, that is completely fine. But again, that's Luke chapter 5, verses 1 through 10. One day, as Jesus was preaching on the shore of the Sea of Galilee, great crowds pressed in on him to listen to the word of God. He noticed 2 empty boats at the water's edge, for the fishermen had left them there and were washing their nets. Stepping into the boats, Jesus asked Simon, its owner, to push it into the water. So he sat in the boat and taught the crowds from there. When he had finished speaking, he said to Simon, "Now go out where it is deeper and let down your nets to catch some fish." "Master," Simon replied, "we worked hard all last night and didn't catch a thing, but if you say so, I'll let my nets down." And this time their nets were so full with fish they began to tear. A shout for help brought their partners in the other boat, and soon both boats were filled with fish and on the verge of sinking. When Simon Peter realized what had happened, he fell to his knees before Jesus and said, "Oh Lord, please leave me. I'm such a sinful man." For he was awestruck by the number of fish he had caught, as were the others with him. His partners, James and John, sons of Zebedee, were also amazed. Jesus replied to Simon, "Don't be afraid. From now on, you'll be fishing for people." And as soon as they landed, they left everything and followed Jesus. The reason I wanted to talk about this today in terms of like stepping out on faith and starting to create that life that you want for the new year is because we're not going to be able to do it without the Lord. And this passage really just opened my mind to that and really just poured in wisdom to that. And I want to go through it verse by verse with you. Starting with verse 4, when he had finished speaking, he said to Simon, "Now go out where it is deeper and let down your nets and catch some fish." This is before Simon, James, and John. Simon is also known as Peter. This is before they even became disciples, that he goes to them and he tells them, "I want you to go out deeper." This isn't just about physically going out deeper into the sea, right? But this is him saying, like, I want you to go deeper in your faith. When they are listening to Jesus preach, it's one thing to be able to listen to the word of God, but he wants to know, how are you going to apply my word? How are you going to go deeper in your faith with me? And the only way that you can really do that is by your actions. So he tells him to physically go out deeper into the sea, and I want you to be able to let down your nets anyways. I want you to be able to go out and really test your faith. I know that you already tried without me before, but I want you to go and I want you to do it again. Verse 5, "Master," Simon replied, "we worked hard all last night and didn't catch a thing, but if you say so, I'll let the nets down again." Here we see Simon's doubt. It is normal to have doubt when God is calling you to do something. It is normal to have doubt when it's time for you to really change and step out on faith and do something that you have never done before or do something you've never seen before. It is normal to be doubtful. It's normal to be afraid. It is normal to be scared. And we see that here. And Jesus doesn't condemn Simon because he had doubt. Jesus doesn't condemn him because he was afraid. Simon even says, I tried before. And it's not like it was a pity try. It's not like he tried for like 20 minutes. He said he tried all night and they didn't catch anything. He said, but I'm going to still do it anyway. You're telling me to try again, so I'm going to go ahead and try. And this has a lot to do with how we operate in life. Well, I know it's so common for people to just be like, well, I've already tried before. I've already done the thing that God has called me to do, or so I think. I've already tried it before, so why would I try it again? Like, it failed. It failed miserably. And people can be afraid of that failure, especially when they've already done the attempt and the attempt didn't work out the first time. I completely understand the frustration and the fear and the anxiety behind that. I really do understand. But Jesus is saying, try again with me anyways. I'm sure Simon was like, I'm going to try again, but like, what's going to be the difference? Like, I'm going to do it anyway, but I'm just curious to know, like, why would you want me to do it again if I already tried last night and it didn't work? Simon didn't have to tell us all of that. We saw that in his doubt. And so he says, I'm going to do it anyways. The thing that Simon didn't realize was that he was trying again with Jesus standing right in front of him. He was trying again with Jesus doing this with him this time, with him not only just listening to the words of Jesus, but actually acting out on the words of Jesus. And that was the big difference that they couldn't see beforehand. The other thing that's really important to know about this verse 2 is that Jesus didn't have to ask Simon numerous times to go out deeper into the sea and cast his nets down. He asked him one time, and Simon expressed his doubt and said, I don't know why you want me to do this, but I'm going to do it anyway. And that's the point. He's not saying that it's not going to be normal to have doubt. He understands that that's normal, but how many times you start to doubt, or how many times you start to place your faith more in your fear so much as opposed to placing your faith in Jesus, there's a difference between that. There's a difference between being nervous, being anxious, or just having doubt. That's human. That's part of your human experience. But when you are denying what he's telling you to do multiple times, that's disobedience. And there's a huge difference in that. So just really think about how many times has God called you to do something and you are like, nah, I'm not going to do it. I'm nervous, or I'm afraid. Or how many times have you been disobedient because you've tried it before and you feel like you're going to get the same results again. But just keep in mind, like, yeah, you tried before, but you didn't try with your faith. You didn't try with Jesus as your partner. And so that's why that wasn't fruitful. That's why there was nothing there, because he wasn't there to help you through the process. He wasn't there to help bless that experience. And we see that in the next verse, verses 6 and 7. And this time their nets were so full of fish they began to tear. A shout for help brought their partners in the other boat, and soon both boats were filled with fish and on the verge of sinking. Here we get to see how stepping out on faith, even when you're doubtful, even when you're scared, even when you feel like it's not going to work out, we get to see how it plays out. Even if you have just the tiniest bit of faith, it will really help you. And you don't even know what the outcome is going to be. But unless you actually put some sort of faith in Jesus, you're not going to be able to see how that's going to turn out. And here's the thing. I know people say, place your full faith in Jesus, place your full faith in the Lord. And I'm going to say that too. Place your full faith in the Lord. But when I say place your full faith, I'm not saying that you're going to have extreme faith in the Lord all the time, right? It's normal to be doubtful. It's normal to be afraid. It's normal to question things. That is normal. But whatever faith you do have, place that all in the Lord. If you have faith the size of a mustard seed, place your faith in the Lord. If you have faith the size of a peanut, the size of a watermelon, the size of $1 million home, whatever it is that you have, place your faith in the Lord. And don't let that wording trick you to believe like you have to be fully faithful and fully committed to God. There are going to be times where you're nervous. There's going to be times where you're doubtful. There's going to be times where you're afraid, and that's normal. But what you do with that will lead you to the experience that you may want or you may not want. If you're going to rely on your fear and your disobedience and your lack of trust in the Lord, like, then you're going to see nothing. But if you step out on that faith, even when it looks impossible. Simon was like, bro, I already tried this. I already did this once before and we didn't catch anything. And I'm pretty sure we're going to catch nothing again. He still stepped out on faith anyway. Do we know how much faith Simon had? No. Do we know how much fear he had? Yeah, he clearly had more fear and more doubt than anything because he questioned Jesus to his face. And Jesus didn't condemn him for that. And I'm going to keep repeating that because it's so important for us to understand. Jesus didn't condemn him for having the doubts or for having the questions. He was just like, he asked this question and he's like, but I'm going to do it anyways. So just keep that in mind. Like, you need to step out in whatever faith that you have. Step out on it fully. If you feel like your doubt is overweighing your faith, that's okay. It's normal, but don't let the doubt stagnate you to the point where now you're not going to move at all because you're like, I have more doubt than I have fear, so clearly I shouldn't be doing this thing. No, that's not what that's saying. What that's saying is like, okay, you have faith in me in general. So I want you to operate on that. Even though your doubt feels bigger, even though the past seems impossible, I want you to move on the faith that you have regardless. Something I want to touch on with this verse as well is that people make this assumption that your faith is always going to be strong, it's always going to be mighty, it's always going to be surpassing of things of your own understanding. And that's just not true. With our human experience, there's going to be times where we're feeling like we're on top of the world with our faith. We can trust God with everything. We don't have any doubts. We don't have any worries. We don't have anything that we need to really care about because we have our full faith in God. We have so much faith in God. But there are also going to be things in our life that dwindle down our faith and make us feel like, this is all I got. All I have is the faith of a mustard seed because I've been so discouraged by all the things that I've been through. I've been so discouraged by all of the traumas and all the pain and all of the disappointments that my faith has dwindled down. But as long as you still have some sort of faith at all, that is so important. I know people have heard that saying of, oh, if you have the faith the size of a mustard seed. And as a matter of fact, it's right here. Matthew 17, verses 20 through 21. For I tell you, if you have the faith the size of a mustard seed, you will say to this mountain, move from here to there, and it will move, and nothing will be impossible for you. Y'all, do you know how tiny a mustard seed is? I had to Google it because I've heard this verse a million times. I've heard this saying 1,001 times. But I was like, you know what? How small is a mustard seed? Let me just really think about it. And I'm not even going to put the metrics for you. If you're watching this on video, I'll put a picture on this side so that you'll be able to see it. But a mustard seed is so tiny. If you have that much faith and you tell the mountain to move, it's going to move anyway. Can you believe how things would change for your life if you really just stepped out on faith for the thing that God is calling you to do, for the person he's calling you to be, for the thing that he's telling you to change about yourself, or whatever the case may be? Can you imagine how different your life would be if you actually stepped out on that tiny little mustard seed of faith? Like, your life is going to change, and that's the change that you want to be looking for as you step into 2026. You don't want to be looking for this worldly change, right? People are going to tell you how to manifest this and how you can change your life like this, and it's all self-centered. But honestly, like, the change that you're looking for is going to come from your faith. It's going to come from your relationship with the Lord. It's going to come from your relationship with God, and you can't do that by yourself. You're going to have to step out on things that you've never seen before. You're going to have to step out and do things that you've never seen before, be the person that you never thought you were going to be anyways. And that is going to be the thing that changes your life, your faith in God, your trust in God, your obedience to God. Because Simon stepped out on his faith despite his doubt, despite his fear, despite his disappointment and his past experiences, that led him to be one of the most well-known disciples and one of the most well-known apostles. And not just him, but also James and John. This transformed their lives, not just because they caught so much fish and they got such a physical blessing. The physical blessing, that's cool, but it's more so about the internal blessing. They didn't just grow more in terms of money because they were fishermen and that's how they made their money. No, they grew more in terms of their faith and in terms of their relationship with the Lord. That's the most important thing. There are going to be physical blessings that you see, but the amount of blessings that you get internally that people cannot see, that's the thing that's the most important of all. And the way that God transforms you, transforms your mind, transforms your heart, that's going to be the thing that's most important. And that internal change is going to be the thing that changes your physical life. It's going to be able to change your physical blessings as well. And I don't want people to get so caught up in the money and the things that they want in this world, because it can be so easy to do that, especially in a world that prioritizes money and objects. But who are you now? And are you happy with that person that you are now? Or do you want to be transformed as a person, as a whole? Yeah, your pockets can change. Yeah, your living situation can change. But what about your friendships? What about the way you think about things? What about the way that you pray to God? What about the way that you listen to music? What about the way that you take care of your body? Those are the things that are so important. When you step out on faith and you're obedient, there are so many things that are going to change about your life. And I want to go ahead and move into the next couple of verses 8 and 9. When Simon Peter realized what had happened, he fell to his knees before Jesus and said, "Oh Lord, please leave me. I'm such a sinful man." For he was awestruck by the number of fish he had caught, as were the others with him. How many times have you felt like God should just leave you because you're doubtful and you don't have full faith in him and you're not willing to step out on full faith? Maybe you haven't moved at all, or maybe you did move, but you still had questions, you still had doubt, you still had fear, and now you feel like, oh, I don't deserve the blessings that God has given me because I was fearful or because I didn't have full faith in God. We don't deserve anything in this life. Let's just go ahead and be honest with that. We don't deserve anything in this life at all, but God gives us grace and he still blesses us anyways. He does not condemn you for that fear. He does not condemn you for that doubt. He doesn't condemn you for the questions. But if you're going to be faithful to the doubt, faithful to the fear, and faithful to the questions, that's where your problem starts. It's normal to have questions. That's part of your human experience, and he is okay with that. He's okay with you asking him the question, but are you still going to do what he told you to do? It can be so easy to condemn ourselves when we don't fully and wholeheartedly trust God with our entire heart and we feel like we don't deserve anything. But look at what God does with such little faith. He can still bless you with such little faith, and those blessings that he gives you with that little faith, not only does that give you a blessing, but also it allows you to give the biggest blessing of all, which is growing your faith with God and growing your relationship with the Lord. So even if you have little faith, step out on that little faith anyway, because when you step out on that little faith, it will continue to multiply your faith. It will continue to grow your faith and get it to a point where you can feel a little bit more secure, a little bit more trusting in the Lord. It's okay. There are things that have made us feel like we can't trust in the Lord. There are experiences that we've been through, traumas that we've been through, whatever, that make us feel like we can't trust in the Lord. He's understanding of that, but he doesn't want you to get stuck there. That's going to build a wall between you and your relationship with the Lord, and that's not what he's looking for. He wants to be close to you. He wants you to be close to him. He wants to be able to give you a good life. He wants to be able to change your life for the better. He has a plan for you, and a plan for you to prosper, not to harm you. With this story, Jesus already knew Simon's heart posture. He already knew that he had questions, that he had doubt, but he also knew that he was still going to do it anyways, which is why he asked him to do it. And we see here that it's okay. Like, God knows our heart posture, but he just wants you to still move on that faith anyway, so that you can see what happened. In this story, like, Simon goes off of his prior attempts and his prior experiences and circumstances, and he's operating on that when he's trying to step into something new. He's trying to figure out, like, well, why would things be any different? I literally did this before already. And how many times have you done that? How many times have you felt like, well, what's going to be the use? What's going to be the difference? Like, I've done this before and I fell off. I failed. It didn't go through. I didn't make the amount of money that I wanted to make, or whatever. The relationship didn't work out. Whatever it is. Like, how many times have you been thinking solely about your prior experiences and your prior attempts, and that's how you're trying to operate in something new? You cannot do that. You cannot bring that with you, because that's the thing that is holding you back. That's the thing that's making you say, no, forget it, and just throwing your hands up, because you're like, I don't want to do this again, because I've already done it and I failed, and I don't want to go through that experience again. But if God tells you to go, you gotta do it, because the experiences are not going to be the same. Do you think that Jesus sent Simon out into the water for a second time to go and cast his nets for it to be empty and for him to be like, haha, joke's on you, ain't nothing in there? No, he sent him out there so that Simon could see for himself. This is what happens when you walk with me. This is what happens when you place your faith in me. Not only are you going to get a blessing, but you got overflow. They got so much fish that their net started to break. Their boat was sinking. They called another boat. The other boat started to sink. And still, they were able to feed the four of them, right? James, John, Simon, and Jesus. But how many people were listening to Jesus preach? We don't even know how many people came to listen. It was just, we said a crowd, right? I'm assuming let's just say that's like 50 to 100 people, right? Not only was he blessed, Simon, in terms of his faith and in terms of the physical blessing of the fish, James, John also got blessed, and the crowd were also blessed, not just with the physical blessing of the fish, right? Take your mind off of that, because everybody's always so worried about the physical blessing. No, they got blessed with their faith. They got to witness a miracle. I'm sure they already knew, the fishermen been having trouble with catching fish. We don't know if we're going to be able to eat. But they see the blessing, they see the miracle, and they see the overflow. That's the other thing too. He stepped out on little faith and got overflow. Was he deserving of overflow? To us, we're going to be like, no, we're not deserving of overflow. But that's not how God is looking at us. God isn't looking at us and being like, well, because you had this much faith, I'm going to give you this much blessing. No, because you have faith in me, you trusted me, and you moved anyway, despite your fear, I'm going to bless that. And I'm going to bless that tenfold. And not only do I bless you tenfold in terms of the physical, but I'm going to bless you tenfold in terms of your faith, because you've seen me do it before, and you know I'm going to do it again and again anyways. And that's going to be the thing that strengthens your faith. You got to remember all of the times that Jesus came out and showed out for you. How many times did he bless you when you felt like you didn't deserve it, when you felt like you were down low, when you had doubts about him? How many times did he bless you? How many times did he show up and show out for you? That's going to be the thing that strengthens your faith. That's going to be the thing that changes your life, because you step out on faith. You step out on that obedience to God. All right, let's look at the last verse. His partners, James and John, the sons of Zebedee, were also amazed. Jesus replied to Simon, "Don't be afraid. From now on, you'll be fishing for people." And as soon as they landed, they left everything and followed Jesus. One thing this passage doesn't talk about is whether or not James and John had fear, doubt, questions. We don't know anything about that. But what we do know is that Simon, the main character, aside from Jesus, of course, in this story, he had doubt and he had fear. He had questions, and he wasn't sure if he was going to be able to catch anything this second time around. But what we do see with James and John, aside from them being amazed, is that they got blessed because Simon said yes to God. And that's the thing I want you to keep in mind. You don't know how many people are connected to your yes to the Lord. You don't know how many people are going to be blessed by your yes to the Lord, by stepping out on faith, by being obedient to God. We have no idea how many people are connected to that path. Do you think that I wanted to come back and start filming this podcast? No. I'm going to literally tell you, last night I filmed this 4 different times. It was terrible in my eyes. I was so frustrated with myself, and I was just like, I don't know what's wrong with me. I've made so many attempts to come back to the podcast, and it's been so hard, and I don't understand why. And it took me a second to just really step aside, just worship God, and just explain to him how I'm feeling, and still stepping out on faith anyways, and just realizing, like, I'm scared of this taking off. I'm scared of this becoming a big thing, because what does that mean? What responsibility does that come with? And I'm not ready for that. I've never seen anybody do that in my close circle. I've never seen anybody, step out on faith in my family. So, like, what does that mean for me. And I can understand the fear. I can understand the doubt. I can understand the questions. But today, filming this now, it has just been such a different experience. I feel like it's more natural. I feel more comfortable. I feel like that pressure is off of me now. And it's because I still stepped out anyways. And because I'm keeping in mind, like, I don't know how many people are going to be blessed by this podcast, but what I do know is I'm not trying to get in the way of how many people are going to be blessed by my obedience to my yes to God. And you have to really think about that with whatever he's calling you to do. Even if you feel like that's not the thing is you want to do it anyway. You don't know how many people are connected to your yes, how many people are going to be blessed by God because you said yes. Jesus tells them in this verse, don't be afraid. He knows you're going to be scared, but being afraid can allow you to stop in your tracks and not want to move forward. He's saying don't do that. You can have the fear, that is fine, but being stuck in your fear, that's the problem. When you can't step forward, that's the problem here. And I just want you to be able to move anyways. And you're going to be doing this now on a bigger scale. I'm going to have you start fishing for people. And the other thing I want you to keep in mind, right, is like James, John, and Simon. They're just fishermen, right? They just work regular jobs. They're just regular people, nothing fancy, nothing extraordinary. They're not royalty or anything like that. Jesus met them where they're at, where they were doubtful, they were fearful, they were afraid. They weren't seeing any results. He took them from where they were currently at, and he said, I'm going to use you exactly as you are, exactly how you are. Despite the circumstances that you tried without me, I'm going to make sure that if you have faith in me, you will be blessed tenfold. He says, I don't need you to go out and start doing all this extra stuff for you to think that that's what I need you to do to be able to do what I called you to do. No, if I'm telling you to do it right now, you need to do it right now. If God tells you, I always use this example. Not everybody's an entrepreneur, and that's okay. But I always use this example. If God tells you to start a business and you're like, I have no business experience, I've never been a leader, I've never done this, that, and a third, do it anyway. He said, I'm going to use the skills that you already have to be able to build the business. Does that mean it's going to be easy? No. Does that mean there's not going to be harshness? No. Does that mean you're probably going to be crying out from time to time? Yes. And you do it anyway. If God calls you to be a stay-at-home parent and minister to your children in that way, and you're like, I don't know if that's something I want to do. He's like, I want you to use the skills that you learned from whatever job that you have and apply that to your family, minister to your family. Everything starts at home. You do that. Do the thing that he's calling you to do, even if you feel like, well, maybe I need to do this, that, and a third first before I get myself together. You know how many times I felt like, oh, maybe I should, study the Bible extra or do this, that, or do that, or whatever. He's saying you don't need to do all of that. You don't have to do all of that. If I called you to do something, I want you to do it, and I want you to do it with faith in me. And that's going to be the thing that gets you by. You can do all the studying, you can do all the preparation that you want, but you're just stalling. And that stalling is disobedience. I asked you to do something, and I need you to do it now. I want you to keep in mind that you don't need to have this certain lifestyle. You don't have to be this certain person for God to bless you. God does not have favorites. And you know how many times I see people be like, oh, God's favorite. They be wearing the t-shirts that say God favorite. Let me go ahead and prove it to you that God doesn't have any favorites. Okay. Romans 2:11. For God does not show favoritism. Ephesians 6:9. Don't threaten them. Remember, you both have the same master in heaven, and he has no favorites. 1 Peter 17. And remember that the heavenly Father to whom you pray has no favorites. He will judge and reward you according to what you do. So you must live in reverent fear for him during your time here as a temporary resident. God has no favorites. He doesn't care if you're a lawyer, a doctor, a janitor, the person that picks up the trash. I'm not trying to be disrespectful. I don't know what the respectful title for that is. He doesn't care what your job is. He doesn't care who you are. If you have faith in him, he's telling you to do something, you need to go ahead and operate on that anyways, and the impossible will be made possible for you. He doesn't have any favorites. He's not saving his blessings for a specific group of people. That's just not how he operates. As you get ready to start thinking about like how you want your 2026 to look like, if you haven't already, or even if you have, I want you to just keep in mind that if you really want your life to change, it's going to start with your relationship with God. It's going to start with your faith and your obedience to him. And that's going to be the thing that changes you holistically. Forget the things that you're trying to obtain. If you want to be a better person, if you want to be less prideful, if you want to struggle less with lust or with greed or whatever the case is, right? He is going to be the person that can change you. And it wasn't until this morning, right before filming this, where I really just sat down and thanked God for how much he has changed my life since I've decided to step out on my faith. And since I've decided to really start taking my faith more seriously, the amount of pressure that has been released from my body because I said yes to God and He's been able to renew me as a person is just undescribable. And that's the thing that I really want to be able to share with y'all in this new season, in the way that the podcast operates, is that none of this is me. Like, God is working through me to be able to change my life, and I want to be able to bring you on that journey where you get to see it day to day, where you get to see how I'm changing just as a person. Forget the physical stuff, right? When you grow up in the hood and when you grow up with traumatic experiences, whatever the case may be, that changes who you are as a person. That alters the way that you respond to certain things. But God can still come in and change your life anyway. He can restore you to the person that He created you to be before all the trauma, before all the pain, before all of the disrespect. He can bring you back to what He created you to be. And the fact that I'm starting to see that time and time again, it is just such a blessing. And I really just want to be able to share that with as many people that want that change for themselves. Because that's the other thing too, right? You can want to change your life, but do you really want it? That's one thing. People say they want to change their life all the time, but you wanting something, you saying that you're serious about this thing, is going to require you to step out on faith, step out on obedience, and actually do some things. It's the action that Simon did that showed that he had faith in Jesus, because he could have just been like, nah, I'm not moving this boat for nothing because I already tried, it's not going to work. No, he still did it anyway, despite his past experiences, despite his doubts, despite his worries, despite his past experiences. He does it anyway. And that's the thing that I want you to do. I want you to be able to step out on faith anyway, because you don't know how many people are connected to your yes. You don't know how many people are going to be blessed by your obedience to the Lord. You don't know how you're going to grow and change as a person and be blessed tenfold in your faith and in your spirituality, because that's the thing that really matters. The physical stuff, that's cool, whatever, but being able to live your eternal life with God and starting that here, that's the thing that's the most important of all. All right. With that being said, we're going to go ahead and move into some shadow work prompts, and I have 3 of them for you today, and they're based off of the scripture that we read today. And so the first one is based off of, we worked all night and caught nothing. So the first one is, where in life do I feel exhausted, discouraged, or tempted to give up, and how might that be affecting my willingness to trust God? The second one is based off of, if you say so, I'll let down my nets. What would obedience look like for me right now, even if it didn't make logical sense? Last one, the nets were filled beyond expectation. What blessings might I be limiting because I'm afraid of being disappointed again? All right, we are at the point where we've reached our affirmation for this week's episode. And our affirmation for this week is, my past disappointment does not disqualify me from future blessings. I'm going to go ahead and repeat that 3 times. If you have the ability to close your eyes, close your eyes. If you want to write this down, however you want to speak this positivity onto your life, find a way to do it. And so, my past disappointment does not disqualify me from future blessings. My past disappointment does not disqualify me from future blessings. My past disappointment does not disqualify me from future blessings. All right, y'all, that is all I have for you today. If you felt blessed by this episode in any way, shape, or form, don't forget to follow the podcast on whatever streaming platform that you're on. We are on Apple, Spotify, Amazon, iHeartRadio, YouTube. We are on all of the things, so make sure you go ahead and follow us. If you are watching this on YouTube, don't forget to hit the subscribe. If you're watching this on YouTube, don't forget to hit the subscribe button, give us a like, leave a comment down below, because I would love to hear your thoughts about this week's episode. And just a couple of quick things, you can follow us on social media on Instagram and TikTok, both at the HSL Pod. If you want to see more about my personal day-to-day life, you can follow me at Sabrina, SABRINAA.LIZET, also on Instagram and TikTok. And one last thing that I want to let you know, I have a secular music detox playlist. So if you don't want to hear anything that is worldly and you want to listen to music that is specifically focused on God, a lot of it is R&B because that's not my preferred genre. That will be linked in the description wherever you're getting this podcast from. And I have it available for both Apple and Spotify. I will try to continue to update them on both platforms. I personally use Apple, so that will probably be more up to date sooner than Spotify, but I will make sure to keep updating them as I continue to find more songs. But I have about a smooth 5 hours worth of music on there. So if you're looking for ways to start minimizing the music that you're listening to and increasing more of the spiritual music, more of the godly music, then I will leave that link for you in the description below. But that is all I have for you this week, and I'm super glad to be back, and I look forward to seeing you next week. But I'm gonna catch you on the next one. Bye.